I want to take you through a little bit of our process for using art in this house. So come here. Look at this room. Literally every surface is covered with the art that we have used and accumulated in our lives over the last 25 years, basically. Kyle and I are both artists in our own way, so art is extremely important to us. When we decorate a house or when we put a house together, we have pretty much never purchased a piece of art that did not have specific meaning for us or that we just fell in love with. We've never bought anything at like a generic Kirkland's or anything like that because most of that art is just has no meaning. So I wanted to kind of show you what we have and sort of the approach that we took over the years as we have pulled all this art together. So the first thing I want to say is I was told a long time ago by somebody regarding interior design, if you find something and you absolutely love it and you have no idea where in the world it will go in your house, don't worry about that. Get it. Because it will find a place in your house because it is a part of your style and it will fit in some way. Now, I've never been a minimalist or like modernist, so I kind of lean more towards the eclectic, curated approach to art in our lives. So, but I have, as I was thinking through the art that we have in our house, I do realize that there's been an approach, sort of a strategy, without necessarily it being a conscious strategy. It is the strategy that Kyle and I have used as we put art together over the years. So one thing is, we started out when we had zero money and could afford no art. It really helped that Kyle is an artist. He had stuff that he had done in architecture school that we actually have used. So I have a pile of things here that, and over here too, that is art that Kyle has made. So like really super detailed pen and ink sketches like that were things he did in architecture school, which are beautiful. And this like tiny little pointillistic sketch is just gorgeous. What's interesting too is over the years, as he's kind of just experimented with what he likes to do, he has created bigger pieces that are more unique to Kyle. Like this is a sketch of a cathedral and he colored it with tea and watered down coffee. It's not like framed really fancy. A lot of times we end up kind of creating something based on a frame that we find. So here's another whole section of Kyle's stuff. This, it sort of does double duty. It is both an artwork original to Kyle and it is a kind of a piece of remembrance about a place that we've lived. So he spent some time in Europe and he was inspired to do some sketches about that. This is a piece that he actually did of me. It won an award and was featured in the Delta exhibition in Arkansas years ago. He did this beautiful wing just for funsies, which I think is one of the most beautiful things. And it also is really fun because my boys are all avid birders, so it sort of touches on their love of birds. And this is something he did also when we were back in Arkansas. He got into screen printing, and so he just took some photographs and screen printed all this stuff. That's actually me standing behind this iron grate, like of a door in Arkansas. What's funny is sometimes people have seen that for years and not realized that I'm actually in that picture. It's kind of a, like, what, you're there? So that's, Kyle has done a lot of work that, and thankfully a lot of it's big. I work on a slightly smaller scale. The work that I have done personally is paintings, hang on one second, of my kiddos. This is Brooklyn, and then this is August. They were both around, well, August was like 2.5 when that picture was painted. That was Brooklyn when she was about 5. And I painted that before I had a lot more kids, and so my goal is to paint a portrait of all my children, but they all may be like grown out of the house before I get to that, but that's my desire. Another source is vintage stuff. Flea markets, anything that I find that just catches my eye, I usually can try to find a way to incorporate it into the art in our house. Sometimes it is as simple as a postcard, or a lot of times at old antique places you can find boxes of old photographs And you just never know what treasures are in there. I've been known to buy a box of photographs and sift through and find pieces that I can work with to make something out of it. I also have found, like even in this house, I found this print, which is a Joyce Kilmer poem of trees, which is super significant because my kids have memorized that poem and we love trees. This is a copy of a Picasso print that we found at an estate sale. The Whistler's Mother. I just like these vintage flowers. And then this really beautiful little random horse circus thing we found years ago, and it has been in Brooklyn's room. And it just, I don't know, it was kind of whimsical and beautiful. I have a lot of stuff that's kind of along that line, like antiques that we found. The other thing that is really cool for us, I think, is, so when we named our son Wyeth, we named him specifically because the Wyeth family is a family of really creative artists. And creativity is one of our family's family values. And we wanted, I think at the time, Kyle and I had both been just studying a lot about the Wyeths and we're really inspired. So for Wyeth in his bedroom, we kind of have pieced together a Wyeth montage. So we have like a painting here, obviously not original, by Andrew Wyeth. And then this is a painting of that N.C. Wyeth, Andrew's father, did. And then behind that is this beautiful ram that James Wyeth did, who is Andrew Wyeth's son. So I just loved the fact that there's this family of artists and they pass that love of art down through the family, which Kyle and I hope to do with our children. So this is usually like clustered around Wyeth's room in some way. I already mentioned that the boys are birders. So over the years, we have collected artwork that is bird photos, including some that we've had friends take. This was, several of these were given to us by friends who were also birders. And then we realized that you could print the Audubon bird prints. And so we have printed several of those and used them around the house. They're just phenomenally beautiful. We also, like this section over here is sort of like a tribute to Chicago. It's such a great city to have lived in because it just has so many unique things. This was like a grid print of the neighborhoods. It actually probably goes that way. Of the neighborhoods, and not that I have any idea where we lived in relation to that, but it's just beautiful. Kyle made this one. Chicago has a great lake.
Yes, it does.
Kyle found this, which is a print from, totally not knowing where it is, but it's a magazine print that he just thought was great because he used to work over by the Loop under the trains. This has been in our house for years before we ever moved to Chicago, but it's a picture of the Columbian Exposition, World's Fair that was held in Chicago. And then we have a neighborhood map of all the neighborhoods in Chicago, which was super handy when we lived there because we would actually reference this when we found out somebody lived somewhere. We lived right there. The lake was right here. It was wonderful. We also have mementos from our time in Arkansas. I have a painting of our house that we lived in Arkansas. As well as going along that theme of like places that have significance to you, we have a map of Captiva, which is our favorite place in Florida to go. We have a really old map of Chicago that we have had for years and years and years.
We're not even on the map.
No, yeah, we didn't even. Actually, we are because that's Evanston, so we'd be there. Yeah. And speaking of just art, this has been one of Kyle and my favorite pieces in our house. This piece by Matisse it's in the Art Institute in Chicago, and it's one of the largest paintings that they have in the museum. And something about it, just Kyle and I have always loved. So we got this print somewhere. I think it was like at an estate sale, actually. This is before we even lived in Chicago. And happened to find this giant perfect frame to go with it. And that's another thing. If you look at estate sales and flea markets, you can find the best frames. We have maybe professionally framed like 2 things. It's crazy. The Mondrian print is another one, as well as the Kandinsky. That was also a vintage find that I got from an estate sale. I love Kandinsky. We also, I keep saying we also, but there's a lot of extra things. Art books. I get art books, some of them from vintage places. If you go through the art books, there are individual pages that are beautiful. I regularly peruse them and will cut out a page that I like. Here's a perfect example. This is a Modigliani woman that I just had to have in a frame. So we cut the picture out of the book and put her in a frame. There also, I found this sketch. It's not original, obviously. A Matisse sketch in a vintage frame, which is totally falling apart, but it works. Another thing that I've done, when I was in college or grad school, I went to Europe, and there are street vendors all over the place that sell beautiful sketches of these beautiful locations. So when I went to Prague, I bought a ton of things, and then when I came home, I had no idea what I was going to do with them, but I just found vintage frames after the fact and have over the years kind of moved them all about the house. They're all different styles. Like, some are very watercolory, some are more like pen and ink. This is also Budapest. Oh, I'm sorry. I just hit you. These I did not get from there. I found these at a garage sale, and then I had them framed, like Parisian Cafe. That's also from Prague or Budapest. I can't remember which one. So this hasn't come together like over months. It's been years. The other thing we have a lot of in our house are boats, vintage boats, ships, a watercolor. Actually, the watercolor at the back probably got us started. I got this at an estate sale. There's one one estate sale that was sort of a landmark for me and Kyle. It was this house that was up in this really wealthy area of Little Rock, and it was the most epic estate sale I've ever been to in my life. And the people, I think what impacted me the most was the way they decorated it with art. It was beautiful. It was floor to ceiling in some places, low to the ground in some places. Nooks and crannies had art that you don't see people do things like that in design magazines, but it was the warmest, most museum feeling house. Like, you could tell these people had been around the world. They loved beautiful things. They loved unique things. They loved art, and it just was all over their house. So in a lot of ways, I think I have unconsciously leaned toward that style of using art in our own house. Another thing, we do have sort of some slightly more modern things, which kind of are nice when you pepper it around really old things, but these are simpler, more just pops of color that there's not like anything special about them as far as they have specific meaning. They're just pops of color that can be really beautiful. The other thing that is a bonus when you can get this is when you have friends that are artists and you get a piece of their art for your home. This right here, this really funky monkey was a screen print that one of Kyle's former coworkers, June, made, and it is just the most clever, wonderful thing to me. It's unexpected, especially when you pair it beside like an old world master. It's just so great. So I love that. The other thing that I have kind of done, this is sort of along the lines of my own creations. I've done some landscape paintings of places like this is of a tree at our farm in Arkansas. It was one of the first attempts at painting I ever did. It's not perfect, it's like terrible, but it's our farm in Monticello, and it's just has meaning for me. And speaking of the farm in Monticello, this right here, I had this crazy idea one time. there used to be this 100-plus-year-old tiny little farmhouse in Monticello that my great grandparents lived in. And that house was the site of many like holiday meals while it was still standing. And over the years, it just fell apart. But before it completely tore down to the ground and just disintegrated, I had my mom salvage a bunch of the wallpapers that were in the place. And I didn't even know what I would do with them at the time, but I just felt like they needed to be preserved. So when she actually gave me all the different pieces, I kind of sat down with them and just played around with it. And I realized, and I did two of them, one for my mom, one for myself. I recreated the farmhouse exactly as it was. I mean, there used to be a little porch with posts. This huge tree was outside of it. Had like the basic shape of the tin roof. I mean, it was so rustic, but it just became, this is just a memory box for me of that place. Plus it preserves something of that house without, I don't know, I thought it was really cool. Another one of my favorite pieces, and I can't really explain why, but I just love it so much, is this embroidery piece. I found it on an online vintage girl on Instagram. And it's this little schoolhouse. And if you sit and look at it, there are so many details in it, like a bird in a nest. And like, I don't know why I get lost in this. There's like a little water pump and a something to catch it. The leaves are changing at the top. It's just such attention to detail. And it just makes me happy. Another artist that we do know, there's a lady that we met who is from Northwest Arkansas, and she has the most beautiful watercolor work. I bought several pieces of hers. I don't know yet where they're gonna go or how I'm gonna arrange them, but they just are beautiful to me. So we will see. This one is a cicada, which is also a memory piece because last year in Chicago, we were supposed to have like the greatest surge of cicadas, the 17-year surge or whatever. And everybody got super prepared. And where we lived, it ended up being really nothing. But my friend made a block print of the cicadas and gave it to us when we moved. And I think it's fantastic. And then sort of the cap of all of the original piece of art that Kyle and I did, this is the first one we spent money on. One of the only ones we've actually had to spend money on, was this door painting over here. There's a friend of Kyle's, he used to work with her, Emily Von Grimp, and she is just the most beautiful painter. And she has so many doors all over her house that she painted. And I fell in love with this one. I love greens, I love blues. Something about that door just got me. So when we had no money to spend, we spent money on that door. And it has been one of my favorite pieces ever since. We do, on a small scale, have artwork that our kids have done. That is not necessarily a priority.
We make a lot of art. It's okay.
There's so much that it's impossible to put it all up on the walls. But we do usually have a representative probably of every kid. And some of them are quite lovely. Like, this is one that Brooklyn did when she was itty bitty. And I don't know. It just, like, it's art. This is one Dorian did. Dorian has done several paintings of butterflies, and they're great. This is one Wyatt did, or Wilder did. He's very blocky. He has a style that's almost like quilts, but the geometric precision with which he has always done his art was like worth preserving for us. So there's just a smattering of like family things, and every now and then we'll have a couple like pictures. I have a wedding picture of myself that we usually build on a gallery wall. I don't want to like make a big deal out of specific stuff like that. But
Come on, she's gorgeous, y'all.
the other funny thing we did, I have this huge piece back here. I'll see if I can get there. Klein is an artist that Kyle and I like. He's very modern, very unaffordable. But one day we were looking at his pieces and I was like, Kyle, can we make one of those? And he's like, definitely. So we made like our own little Klein. This is a Kyle Klein. But nice to have a mix of big pieces and really small pieces. The small pieces are great for like little vignettes that you want to create around your house. And I love to do that, like really unexpected spaces, small spots. I like to, I don't know, I kind of look at everything as like a little vignette. This is something I got at another flea market or estate sale in Chicago, which just captures perfectly my love of old houses. If they had had more of them, I would have bought every single one of them. They're just, I don't know, it just captures the beauty and, I don't know, attention to detail that gets lost in modern architecture, I think, or generic architecture. But so the real challenge now is putting it on the walls. That is so challenging. We have sort of an idea of where some of the bigger things are going to go, and likely it will shift about. It'll all change. There's no way to know for sure where everything is going to look right. It's further complicated by the fact that there are 3 rooms in the attic, which I know will not be in use for a while, but I still, in my mind, I see the rooms as they're going to be, and I see the art that I want to put in those spaces. So it's kind of hard to say, I need to like preserve these pieces so I can use them for a future room. Like, I don't know when that room will be ready, but I kind of want these to go there when it is. So it could be that we just put stuff up and then find something else for those spaces. I don't know. But I'm always looking because, oh, one thing I forgot to say. My favorite painter in the world is John Singer Sargent. He's the one that inspires me more than any other person. So I have a whole box of Sargent prints that we had framed and used in Brooklyn's room because he's just the greatest painter in the universe. And I've never been more inspired to, I actually did that one myself. I've never been more inspired to paint than when studying his works. So back in Chicago, we had a bunch of his prints all over Brooklyn's room. I'm not sure how we will incorporate them into this house, but I'm guessing they'll probably still be around her room. But he was the beginning of my desire to really paint and just capture life in such a way that so few artists do. The light, the folds of fabric just moves me. So I honestly don't feel like as many walls as we have in this house that we have enough art. I feel like we're going to start putting things on the wall and it's going to feel naked, especially because one of the things I want to do in the kitchen above the super high area of the kitchen is kind of create an art gallery in there. I've never actually seen an art gallery in a kitchen, but I intend to have one. So that may use up some of our big pieces. I'm not really sure. I'm not sure where we're going to go with all that. But this is a lot of stuff, and it's gonna make a dent. But I just thought you guys might like to kind of get a feel for some of the art that we have in our house, where it comes from, how we think about art, and then what we're planning on doing in the future, and just a strategy for planning how you're going to put art in your own house, because there's not a formula. The only thing I will say is don't be afraid to put things in unusual spaces. Always hang it like eye level. Start that way. Gallery walls are fantastic, but you can't have every wall be a gallery wall. But art is what makes a home, and I can say that for sure because I'm living in this one. We've been here almost 2 months, and the thing that makes me feel the most unsettled is that I don't have art up yet. So once the art starts going up, it really becomes, it feels like you, and it starts taking your, it starts to have a sense of who you are and who your family is and the things that you guys have curated over the years, which is very special, very important. So hope you enjoyed that.